So what we're going to do today is really focus on how to understand what is soul, what is the soul, how would we recognize it in the fabric of our lives, and how does the soul try to transform that personality so that it becomes the rightful agent. The destiny of the personality, the lower self, is to be just that. It's to be that part of you that acts as a representative of the higher part of you. Sometimes the personality has been called the vehicle of the soul, the vehicle or the outer garment of the soul, the outer garment. The challenge is, of course, is that that outer garment believes that it's an independent agent. That outer garment thinks that it's a separate entity. It doesn't realize that it's actually just a sheath that is encasing the true entity, which we would call the soul. So what I want to do today to start is I want to get into some definitions for you, and I want to lay out what we call the three periodical vehicles to really give you the first sense of what does it mean to when we say that we have a higher and a lower self. And I want to surprise you by saying that we are going to start with the realization that you're actually not just a soul and a personality, but you're a monad, soul, and personality. So we're going to take you into a deeper perspective right away. So it's so interesting when you think about it that when we say a periodical vehicle, we're really talking about the idea that life, as it manifests through layers of substance, there are places in that process where a sense of identity, a perceiver, arises. And as you can see here, it is said that we have three periodical vehicles. And one is called the monad, the other is the soul, and the lowest is the personality. The personality is often talked about as the lower self. The soul is the higher self. But the monad is sometimes called the divine self or the highest self, the highest self. It's interesting because in this philosophy we talk about the soul a lot, but actually there's something transcendent to the soul. There's something that is representing the absolute highest note within you, and that's called the monad. Now for people on the path like ourselves, where you're really trying to wake up more to the soul itself, the goal is for us to be lifting our consciousness from personality to soul. That's the goal. But the day comes, and we'll talk a little bit about how that looks and when that happens, but the day comes when you're actually coming to a point in your evolution where you're lifting your identity from the soul all the way to the monad. And that represents the life of a master. A master is somebody who is returned, you might say, to the monad, and is now fully living that. We'll get into that more, but right now I just want to lay this out for you. Let's just look at some of the key ideas here. If you think about the monad as being the spark of life, it is life itself. And life descends and is qualified, or the quality of life is soul, and it manifests as appearance. Life, quality, and appearance. Monad, soul, and personality. It's the descent. Now, just for clarity, this idea of monad, one way to look at it is this way. Imagine that if we say that there's only one life, one entity, one being, the one life, and let's say that that one life is a flame, a fire, a flame. Well, what is the monad then? The monad is a spark that arises from that flame. And that's the core of who you are. Your most essential core is that spark, which means that you're part of the divine. You're a living force of fire emerging out of one great flame. And that's who you really are in the ultimate sense. And that thing called monad is so, it's so remote inside us that it transcends every aspect of consciousness that we can conceive of. It's beyond the highest kind of wisdom you can ever experience. It's beyond the highest form of love that you can experience. It is said to be in the realm of being, pure, unfettered beingness. It represents pure spirit, and it conveys the highest note of will and purpose. If we look at soul, which is what we're going to spend most of our time with in this time together, soul is the conveyor of spiritual love and wisdom through the agency of a loving mind. And that's the thing that we want to really explore and understand how to recognize it more in our own lives. And then down here, personality represents the innate intelligence of the triple form life. So let's clarify that. You know, the personality is said to be threefold. Your lower self has three elements to it. There's a mental component, an emotional component, and also a physical component. Each of those components is said to be a substantial, and that's important. In other words, we can see how the physical part of our personality, its physical intelligence, is substantial. We have substance. But the same is believed to be your emotional nature, even though we don't think of it as substantial. In fact, it is. Your emotional body is made up of emotional substance, intelligent emotional substance. And then on a deeper level, your mental body is also made up of a different type of intelligent substance that creates the experience of thought. So this is that the threefold personality is the sum total of the consciousness of those three parts of us. And so if you hear me say the term threefold personality, you understand what I'm now saying, that triple aspect of ourselves. But it's really just a reflection of a triple aspect of the soul, which is a reflection of a triple aspect of the monad. So you can see how they line up. And each is a garment to the next. So that spark that is the beginning of who you are in the ultimate sense, it descends and this becomes its outer agent. And the personality becomes the outer agent of the soul. So there's three layers. This is in a way, you've all heard about the notion of the sacred trinity. Well, in a way, this is a sacred trinity that is your foundational nature. This is the trinity in you in the ultimate sense. Now we're looking at a trinity in you that is the fullness of high to low, and then each in itself is a trinity. So needless to say, the number 3 is really important in esotericism on many levels. So our goal is for where we are in our journey, our goal is to start to first transcend this and transcend the personality and lift ourselves here. But keep in mind that for thousands of incarnations, the story is not about transcending personality, it's about building personality. It's about building your sense of identity as an individual ego. So for thousands of lives, the soul is just behind the scenes. That higher part of us is behind the scenes. It's there, it's clearly there, but for thousands of lives, the objective of incarnation is to develop that personality and to slowly integrate, keyword, integrate that personality so that it becomes an effective ego in the outer world. That's another term we want to understand. In this philosophy, there's the personality and sometimes there's the so-called integrated personality. An integrated personality is a personality where the three parts of it, mental, emotional, and physical, are indeed integrated. They all work together well. The mind and the emotions and the physical nature of the outer life all are integrated in such a way that you have a really effective expression in the outer world. Let us say the emotions and the mind are not at war with each other. They are working well together. And some of the most powerful people in the outer world are integrated personalities. Now, that doesn't mean integrated with soul. That means integrated as personalities. So when I say powerful people in the world, I'm talking about powerful people that have probably very little soul awareness, but these are integrated egos, integrated personalities. But guess what? That's actually a necessary step on the path. We often talk about, the ego, that's the enemy, that's the problem. Well, let's clarify that. That's actually an important step in the evolution of consciousness before you awaken to that higher part of yourselves. So, when you look at somebody that's a real integrated personality, but seems totally selfish and self-absorbed and individualistic and not thinking about the welfare of the larger whole, just remember, you may have had an incarnation like that as well. So just kind of keep that in mind. Each of these structures in us, each of them are, you might say, places where the self identifies itself. Each of these places, the personality, the soul, and the monad, deep inside, are saying, I am something. I am something. And so what I'd like to show you is how they each speak about that. So let me give you another visual here to see this. I changed this so that you could see this better, but it's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4. This is the voice of identity, the voice of the non-integrated personality, the voice of the integrated personality, the voice of the soul, and the voice of the monad. And these are parts of us speaking, okay? And so let's take a look at this one, the voice of identity, the non-integrated personality, the non-integrated personality. It says to itself, I am what I do. I am what I do. Its full identification is with the process of outer living and its action. So, and for the bulk of human experience, for the bulk of our incarnational history, that's how self understands itself. I am what I do. Then we start to move into the phase where we start to begin a few incarnations where the personality is now integrating. And so it begins to speak to itself in another way. And it says this, the integrated personality says, I am the knowledge that I have and can use. I stand as individual, unique, and proud. So now we have it's not just I am what I do, but it's more about I am my knowledge, and I have an individualistic tendency, and I am proud, and I have a sense of there's a strong sense of individualized ego here. Then we start to wake up, and we start to hear the faint promptings of the soul. The faint promptings of the soul begin, and we have a different voice that starts to speak, and that voice says this, I am the wisdom gained over countless lives. Selfless love directs my course. I travel not alone. See the shift here? Now it's about it. The other one, the personality was speaking about I am the wielder of knowledge. This is all about wisdom and love. And that's one of the big characteristics of the personality versus the soul. The soul is an agent of wisdom. The personality is an agent of knowledge. The soul is an agent of true selfless love. The personality, its lower reflection would be either desire or very personalized love. So it's a different voice. And when you're on the path, this is the voice that we're starting to hear. This is the voice that begins to crest upon the shores of our consciousness. Okay? Now, just for the sake of giving you a feel of what would be the voice of the monad, it's one of the most paradoxical voices you can imagine. Here's the monad speaking. I am that which has always been. In me all paradox is resolved. I exist, and yet I do not. Here's where we get into the incredible paradox of what it means to live at that highest place within. Because when it says, I exist and yet I do not, it's the paradox of being both the whole and the part. You see, at that level of beingness, it's the place where universality and particularity both coexist as a function of our awareness of our existence. I am the all, and yet I'm the part. I'm the universal, and yet I'm the particular. At the same time, to us, that seems a paradoxical state. But if you were the monad, you'd understand that. We would understand that completely. And that's where a master is. That's where a master is. You see? So it's just another way of understanding how does consciousness see itself at these different levels of evolution. Okay?